أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي ربي يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح ربي زدني علما ربي هب لي حكما وألحقني بالصالحين ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم آمين يا أرحم الراحمين Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, Alhamdulillah, by the grace and tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, today we are going to talk about ayah number 73 and 74 from Surah Al Imran. And we will go over the recitation and the word by word meaning first. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
ولا تؤمنوا إلا لمن تبع دينكم قل إن الهدى هدى الله أن يؤتى أحد مثل ما أوتيتم أو يحاجوكم عند ربكم قل إن الفضل بيد الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله واسع عليم.
Wala and do not tu'minu, believe, from Hamza, Mim and Nun, Amana. So tu'minu, you believe, meaning all of you. Wala tu'minu, and all of you don't believe, illa, except liman, the one who tabi'a, follows, deenakum, your religion. So this is continuing from the previous ayah. On ayah number 72, we learned that there was a group of people of the book who said, and this was their scheme, that they were saying to the people who they were sending to meet the Muslims, and they were saying that this was a scheme of propaganda to help, to kind of, the purpose was to shake other people out of their belief. So they were saying that to their people, some of their people, that go and believe in what was revealed to those who believed. And at the beginning of the day, so at the beginning of the day, when it's the peak time of the day, kind of go and profess your belief and like make everybody see you, kind of like when it's the peak time of the day in the morning, when like there's hustle and bustle, like even the traffic times today, 7 to 9 a.m., like typically. So when everybody sees you, so go there and believe, and then spend the day with the Prophet ﷺ and everything. And then at the end of the day, reject, and again at the peak time when everybody sees you, because the whole purpose was not to accept or something, but to put up a show, to show the propaganda. So do it at the high peak times, and then reject, and then come back. Perhaps they may return, that perhaps those who have converted to Islam, they might get loose. So the purpose was to shake the belief of those who have converted to Islam. Right? And do that and come back. So this is a continuation now of what they are telling, the instructions that they're giving to the people whom they're sending. So the instruction that they're giving is wala tu'minu, and do not believe illa, except the one who follows your religion. So do not believe anyone, whatever anybody says, that you're going there, you're doing all of this, but the purpose is to do this show, like we are going to do this, to go there in the morning, come back, but don't actually end up sitting there and believing what they're saying. Don't start believing that. So be very clear, like have your screens on, like whatever they say, don't listen to them like that you can actually believe in what they're saying. That's not allowed for you. That's not right and everything. So you have to believe only your side of the story. So that's the instruction that they're giving. And then in the beginning, in the middle of it, there is a parenthesis. So you can say that, like a parenthetical statement, like when we are saying something and then in the middle we say something else, like in a bracket or like in between the commas, and then we can continue again with the same thing. So this part, Qul innal huda hudallahi, right? So this part is the parenthetical sentence in this. So because of this, some scholars have said that this is a difficult ayah to understand. That's why I'm going a bit slower here. So but then if we inshallah pay attention, then we will be able to understand. So just that this part is in the middle, that surely say. So the Prophet ﷺ is being told to say in response that the guidance, in definitely indeed the guidance is the guidance of Allah, unless tu'ta, yu'ta, sorry, is given ahadun to the one, mithla, like. So then it is continuing that from the previous one. So this part, you can think of that as bracket, kul innal huda hudallah, that the Prophet ﷺ is being told to say that. And then the thing continues that what they were saying before, that do not believe in anyone except who follows your deen. And then it continues, unless he is given, anyone is given, yu'ta is given, ahadun, anyone, mithla, the like of, ma, of what, utitum, was given to you, or if you actually end up believing in them, then, or what they will end up doing is that yuhajjukum, they may argue with you, inda rabbikum, in front of your Lord, near your Lord. Then again, the Prophet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to the Prophet, Kul, say, Innal fadla, indeed the fadl, the bounty, the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, biyadillahi, is in the hands of Allah. Yu'tihi, he gives it, man yasha'u, to whoever he wills. Wallahu wasi'un alim, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all encompassing and all knowing. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, and do not trust, and their instructions are continuing here, do not trust except those who follow your religion. And then the Prophet being told, say, indeed the true guidance is the guidance of Allah. Then continuing from here, and do not trust except those who follow your religion, lest someone be given knowledge like you were given, or that they would thereby argue with you before your Lord. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, say, indeed all bounty is in the hands of Allah. He grants it to whom he wills, and Allah is all encompassing and wise. And there are different ways of looking at this ayah that different scholars have presented. Inshallah, we'll go over some of them. And then ayah number 74.
يختص برحمته من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم.
يختص, like to make something khas, to make something, to choose something. When we make something khas, what are we doing is we are choosing that out of a lot, we're choosing something. So yakhtasu, Allah chooses, he chooses, bi rahmatihi, for his mercy, man yasha'u, whoever he wills. It is Allah's choice. He chooses whoever he wills for his mercy. Wallahu, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, dhul fadlil azim, is the possessor of dhu, is like in grammar we learn du dadi, it means is the possessor of something, right? Is the possessor of al fadli, the bounty, al azimi, the great. So Allah is the possessor of the great bounty. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that he selects for his mercy whoever he wills, and Allah is the possessor of great bounty.
يشاء.
So inshallah we will go over a little bit more detail. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in ayah number 73, but do not believe for real except in those who follow your faith. Right. So first thing is that those people, they are, so the rabbis of, some of the rabbis of Medina at that time who were sending their people to do this thing because they were like worried with Islam spreading and all this, what is going on? They don't like it, and why could how could the Prophet would go to Bani Ismail, and why is this, the strength keeps increasing? There are people who keeps converting to this religion, and this is bothering them, and now the Qibla is also changed and everything, that's bothering them even more and everything. So they are so they're sending this. So this is one of the propaganda that they're creating, that they are sending people to go to their majlis, to go to their gatherings, go and sit in their gatherings, pretend to be a believer, and go and sit in their gatherings and show that you're a believer and stay there for some time and then come out, and then you speak against them, saying that, you know what, I actually gave it a genuine shot. I actually thought that, yeah, this could be the final prophet that we've been waiting for. And I would go there and I would like spend my day there. And then when I come out, I'll be like, you know what, I actually listened to his whole thing, what he had to say. And I checked all my references, and I checked all my other books, and I consulted with my other rabbis and everything. I actually did give this a sincere shot. But after deep consideration, I have now come to the conclusion, with a lot of research and everything, that this is not the truth, that this is a lie, this prophet, astaghfirullah, that this prophet is not saying the truth, or this is the lie. And then you make a whole propaganda about it. And even today, And that's human nature, that sometimes we look at people. There are two kinds of people that we look at for authenticity. One is the for authentic information. One is the people who we consider as the people of ilm, the people of knowledge in any field. Let's say in medicine, we would listen to a doctor, what a doctor has to say to us. We would be like, okay, that person has an authority and we have a trust going on, that they would know what they're talking about. So we would trust them in terms of the medical advice they're giving, or they're saying, no, you have to get these tests done, or you have to get this done. You'll be like, okay, they know more than me, right? So we understand them. Like an engineer, we would trust for the things about mechanics or something. And then in terms of religion, we would look at religious scholars and authorities and be like, yeah, they know more than me. So when those people say that they're given it a genuine shot and they've discussed and everything, then we will look up to them and everything. Also, we will look at somebody who's been on the inside. Like today, for example, there are a lot of people who speak against Islam. Like there are a lot of people. If you look at even online, there's so many people speaking against it. They would pick up something here, something there. They try to twist things and misinterpret things, or they are people who are trying to abuse and use the teachings of Islam and twist it and use for their own benefit. There are people who are using that, and we cannot stop them, right? So people are using those things. People are doing those things, and people who are not Muslims, when they do those things and everything, when we talk to other people, when you explain, it's easy to understand. Okay, this is an Islamophobe, or we can talk about any other label that, like, or we can say that, okay, we can think of that they have certain agenda. But when you have somebody who has been a Muslim and then they get indoctrined or something, or they get led away or astray, and then they start making these videos, which again, in social media, we have so much, and we have things in person too, but then social media is so common nowadays that we see these things so much. And a lot of our youngsters do get impacted by that. That sometimes we have these videos saying that, okay, about and from an ex-Muslim, on from an ex-Muslim woman, how she felt she was oppressed by Islam. All of a sudden, when this lady's saying something, it adds some credit. We listen to it more. We're like, okay, now this person was there and everything. And sometimes some young people or somebody new to the faith, somebody who doesn't have that much understanding, they would be like, and they would be like, they would see this video saying, okay, um, from an ex-Muslim, or listen to me for 15 minutes and I will convince you that, like, and you that this is not the right religion and everything. And some young person who's very passionate or something is like, oh yeah, I will listen to this and I won't be affected by this. I know my religion for sure. I won't be affected by this and everything. And they put on this video and everything, and they listen to this and they are like, oh, really? This was how it was said? Does the Quran actually say this? Oh, this means this? Really? Or this hadith? Oh, this is this actually hadith? Like, what does this mean and everything? And but because they don't have a context, they haven't studied all those things. What happens is when somebody is misquoting or twisting and everything, doubts come into their mind and everything, right? So if somebody who's from the inside, who has been on the inside, when they say something, even if it is not the truth, it has a more credibility to it. People kind of listen to it a bit more, and people would like it would create more doubts in people's minds. So that is human nature, right? So that was the propaganda, what these people were trying to do, that send people, let them be Muslims for a little while, maybe it's half a day or whatever, let them, and these would be the people of religion, people of like rabbis, and people would be like around. And we learned last time that there were 12 rabbis in one of the narration, 12 rabbis who came like that. So people who were, let's say, Jewish before, some people who are common people, not religious authorities, but day-to-day common Jews who did not have access to the Torah, but they used to go to listen to the Dars. They wanted to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even before the Prophet ﷺ had come. They wanted to follow the Judaism properly, but they didn't have much knowledge. So what they would do is they would go to the Dars of these other people, of their rabbis, and they would try to follow to the best of their ability. And they looked up to these people. But now, when the Prophet ﷺ's message reached them, they understood this is the truth and they accepted Islam because their loyalty was towards Allah. They understood that they wanted to be close to Allah. They always wanted to be close to God. They just didn't know the name of the God was Allah, or they didn't identify him like that, but they always had this feeling in their hearts. And so they came to Islam. But now that they came to Islam and they are with the Prophet ﷺ, and now these rabbis that they used to look up to have come to their gatherings and said in the morning that, oh, we accept Islam as well. Now imagine these people who used to look up to these rabbis. They would be so happy. They'd be like, oh, I used to look up to this person and now this person has accepted Islam. And they would be so happy. They'd be like, yeah, it's so like, okay, now this person who I respected is here too. So it's so nice, Alhamdulillah. And like, we learn together and this and that. So they're so happy about that. And at the end of the day, this person is leaving, they'd be like, oh, they know more than me. Why are they leaving? They came here and they're leaving and they're saying that they didn't find anything truth and everything. So some a seed of doubt is planted. Right? And it doesn't have to be, sometimes a doubt is just a seed, it's nothing more, but then that seed grows over a period of time, right? So that's what they're trying to do. But at the same time, they're conscious that they don't want the scheme to backfire on them, right? So what they're saying is when they're sending these people, they're saying that go and you have to do all of this, but then make sure that you don't end up believing any of those people, right? You don't end up believing those who do not believe except the one who follows your deen, like your way of life. They're not saying, and it's so interesting, like how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us just with a few words the psyche of people as well, or the frame of mind, or what they're thinking and what their planning is, that they are not saying to their people that go there. If their loyalties were towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they would have said, okay, go there and stay with them. And yes, you know, follow the truth and the deletes, see what are the kind of deletes that this prophet is giving, or what is the thing, is it the truth or not, and everything. So, and if it is the truth, and if you really feel it is the truth, then let us know as well, and we will think about it, or we will research more about it or something. But that's not in their mind. Their mind is deenakum wa deenihim. Like, this is their religion and our religion. They're not thinking about getting closer to Allah. They think it's like team rabbis versus team Islam, and like, dare you join the team Islam? We have to be, so you have to be committed to your way, and don't you dare go their way, and don't you dare think about their way. And it is so beautiful how Allah Ta'ala contrasts this directly right after, right? Allah Ta'ala breaks it before they could continue ahead, before telling us more about what they're saying. Allah Ta'ala just uh, brings in a parenthetical statement and tells the Prophet ﷺ to say something in response to that. First of all, what they have said, this part of their statement needs a response first. Like Allah Ta'ala gave a response to their statement first before telling us more about the continuation of what they were saying, right? So in the middle, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is contrasting this and telling the Prophet ﷺ to say that, قُلْ إِنَّ الْهُدَى هُدَى اللَّهِ. Say, indeed, the guidance is the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if we contrast that, there are two parties. If you think of Medina at that time, there are two parties who are claiming religious authority, right? There is some of the religious rabbis who have always had this authority. People look up to them in that region, not just the Jewish people, but also other people look up at them as people of knowledge, people of ilm. They're literally called the people of the book because they're so immersed in learning all the time and everything, right? So they're called these religious authorities. And then there's this Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and his followers and everything, who are, obviously, the Prophet ﷺ is the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but he's telling that to people as well, and he's calling people towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So those two parties, sorry, are claiming a religious authority. And what is the contrast between their two statements? This one group is saying, do not follow except your way of life, your religion, your deen. That is the most important. You have to stick to your own. This is our brotherhood. It's almost like a cult mentality that, this is ours, and it is this or nothing. So you have to stay here. You have to stay close. Doesn't matter what the truth is. Doesn't matter what anything else is. It is. They're not interested in that. They're not interested in getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, following the truth or something. They're interested in, this is our group, and you better show coherence to, or you better show, like, like that you are attaching yourself to this group and you don't go here and there. As opposed to that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching the Prophet ﷺ to say that guidance is the guidance of Allah. He's not saying that guidance is whatever I'm saying or what my group is saying. Rather, he's saying guidance is the guidance of Allah. So our purpose is not to attach to any personalities or any things like that. The purpose of even the Prophet ﷺ, and by extension all of us, is to help ourselves and others get closer to Allah, not to get closer to, like, okay, my group or this group or that group or my way of life or my thing. Our religion does not teach cult mentality, and that's why one of the things that that is so beautiful in our religion is differences of opinion. About so many things, we will find differences of opinion, but then there's a healthy discussion. If you look at the proper scholarship, not the current social media debates, but the scholarship, they would sit, and like a teacher would present an opinion, a student would present opinion, they would discuss it, they would discuss it with daleels and things like that, and they would look at opinions and counter opinions and everything, not for the purpose of putting somebody else down, that okay, my way is right and I am more knowledgeable or something, but to get closer to Allah. That was get closer and closer to the guidance of Allah, what would be more pleasing to Allah. That was the point, and that is always our point in anything we learn. It is not about my way or his way or her way and everything, right? So this is called again, this statement, which is called in the middle, is called jumla mu'tariza, which is the parenthetical sentence in English we call it, right? So um, um, what they're saying to these people is that you are going, but just only accept that thing which matches whatever you are saying, whatever you believe in, right? And also another thing that we learn here is, even sometimes people today, when they come to the Quran, also they study with that same mentality. They have that same mentality when they come to even the study of the Quran, that we are studying it, but we will only follow we were not going to leave the ways of our fathers and forefathers. This is the way that we have seen people follow the religion, and this is the same thing we're going to do. Okay, I might have accepted Islam, but I'm not going to leave the way of my fathers or forefathers and everything, right? Um, so that's a pride which is associated with who you belong to, or the group that you belong to and everything, right? So that pride in association with either your group or your sect or your school of thought or anything, and that kind of um, that is kind of negated here, that kind of stops you. And even in the beginning of the Quran, right, in Surah Baqarah itself, Allah Ta'ala orients us to that thing. And even in the beginning of Surah Al Imran, Alif Lam Mim, through Alif Lam Mim itself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that just clear your mind. He orients us that, like, empty your mind and come to Allah's guidance with an open mind. Like, come as a student, come as a seeker, come as a beggar. Don't come with all. If you're already full of yourself, then things won't enter you. If you come as a seeker, then you will get it. Like, even this Quran, Allah Ta'ala told us even in Surah Baqarah that through this very Quran, Allah guides some and He misguides some. And what is meaning by misguidance? Somebody who'd come to this not as a seeker, somebody who's come to it either as wanting to seek faults with it, wanting to point out something on how to move people away from it, or just looking for confirmation to, I will only believe what ties in with what I will only take what ties in with whatever I already believe. I will just reject everything else. Then you're not looking for guidance from Allah's book. Then you're just looking for confirmation, or you're just looking for things to present to other people. You're not really worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're worshiping your own nafs, but you're going to take from the religion of Allah what what supports your desires, or what supports your point of view. Like, for example, sometimes we talked about this before. Sometimes, may Allah forgive us. A lot of people, a lot of us, what we would do is we would look for the rights of parents, let's say, in the Quran, and we would quote it to our children, like, the parents' right is this, you should behave like this with your child, with your mom, and you should behave like this with your dad and everything. But we will not look at the right of a child. A child has certain rights too. I owe certain rights as a child to my parent too, and everything. Or most of, if you're giving, if there is talk of marriage, let's say there's a dars on marriage or marital relationships and everything, so many times we will find the women coming to that gathering, and let's say it's a woman only talk, then and the lady gives a talk, or the sheikh gives a talk. After the talk, a lot of times you'll have ladies go up to the sheikh or the sheikha who's giving the dars, and say to them that, you know what, you talked a lot about the responsibilities of a wife. What about the rights of the wife? You never told us about the rights of the wife, and or you told us very little about the rights of the wife and everything. So what are our rights? What are the responsibilities of our husbands and everything? And but the thing is, like, we're only interested in looking at thing that benefits us, not what we are supposed to give. And that kind of limits the kind of things that we will get from guidance. So when we come to the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we come to the Quran, when we come to learn about the deen, we have to come like not full of prejudice already, not full of ourselves already. We have to come as a seeker, right? And just on a side note, like this parenthetical statements, what they do is, قُلْ إِنَّ الْهُدَى هُدَى اللَّهِ here, that it adds, it's a beauty of the speech. Like when we are reading certain literature, which is very beautiful and everything, then a beautiful literature has these qualities. So Quran is not just, so there are multiple qualities. In fact, infinite qualities of the Quran. So it guides us, but at the same time, it has a beautiful rhythm to it when we recite it. Like it has like even a person who doesn't understand the Quran, when they're listening to the recitation, it is so beautiful. And there are different sheikhs that we want to listen to. There are different kinds of reciters that we want to listen to. It's like, and different reciters have their own unique way, and we love to listen to different people and everything. And even when we don't understand it, and then when we start to understand it, there's so much beauty in the grammar of the Arabic. There's so much guidance in every word on how Allah Ta'ala structures every word. There's also so much beauty in the literary. There's so much literary beauty in the Quran as well, like how Allah Ta'ala phrases certain sentences. So this thing is like that as well. Right? So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that guidance is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning that they are doing all these clever tricks to persuade people away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to persuade people away from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because it's not that they want everyone to convert to Judaism. There were people who were from the Mushrikeen of Makkah who had converted. There were people who were earlier following idol worship in Medina, but now they have converted to Islam, and now they are the Sahabas of the Prophet ﷺ, and they're sitting with the Prophet ﷺ and learning. And now the rabbis don't want them to convert to Judaism. They just want them to leave Islam. They just don't want the Prophet ﷺ to have a following and everything. And they're using all these clever tricks and propagandas and everything. But what Allah Ta'ala is telling us is these clever tricks that you're doing, they're not going to work for you. Why they're not going to work for you? Because guidance is given to the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is from Allah. It is not from you. Allah is in control, and He can make whoever He wants steadfast on that guidance. And then when He makes someone steadfast on that guidance, no one can succeed to wean that person away from with any trick or plan or enticement that they have and everything. So the hidayat belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right. So all those people who are saying that their own deen only and their own school of thought or everything, that's the only right thing. Everything else is not right. You don't even listen to other people and everything. Just tell them that the touchstone of guidance, the thing that will find out what is right and what is wrong, is going to be the deen of Allah. And Allah is going to say that. Allah is going to like Allah dictates that, not you. You don't say, and just your group or something, that doesn't dictate that. And also, you cannot make these things right or wrong. And then when Allah is saying, Kul innal huda hudallahi, if you look at the word structure, al huda and then hudallahi. So al huda is proper. And in Arabic grammar, if you look at that, al huda means the guidance, meaning specific, the guidance. It's a proper word. And then hudallahi, huda here is common, right? So it's almost like Allah Ta'ala is putting both of them in the way Allah Ta'ala structured this. He has put both the proper and the common together, meaning whether it is something common knowledge or something proper knowledge. If it's a guidance at an individual level or a community level, if it's in a guidance in the matters of this dunya or guidance in the matter of akhirah, all kinds of guidance, whether it's a general guidance or a specific guidance, the source of all kinds of guidance is Allah and only Allah, right? And whatever you have or whatever you're presenting is not guidance. The true guidance is only with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He will tell you what is the right path, right? So what they are doing is that what they were saying is they had created this false notion that it is not for the common Jewish people, is that it is not permissible for you to obey outsiders. And this became the root cause of their errors, right? Because they're showing their bias, they're showing their prejudice, and they're showing a blind following to their sectarian teachings and innovations. They've created innovations in their religion, and then they're making people follow their innovations. Like, okay, this is only the right thing. While the true guidance is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, irrespective of whether it is reaching you through a prophet from Bani Israel or Bani Ismail. That does not make a difference. The guidance is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The rabbis, or those select rabbis who were involved in this, they were talking of religiosity. They were talking about deenakum. They're talking about your religion and everything. But that is not guidance. True guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was sent to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the form of the Quran. And rejecting the Quran, that's what they were doing, rejecting the Quran just because there is no stamp of your religion on it, right? Or like that or because the people of your religion have not accepted it, and that's why you cannot accept it. That is to deprive the people from the light of the Quran. And if you keep doing that, if you're trying to deprive people of this light, to stop people from this through all these schemes and everything, and what you're doing is, after this, only religiosity will remain. Yes, there will be certain thing you will be following, but that whatever you would be following is not guidance anymore, because you're not looking at what Allah Ta'ala has taught. And even we know that one of the names of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is Al-Hadi, meaning He controls the guidance, He owns guidance. And whenever we want something, we will ask from the one who owns it, right? So if something's mine, you'll have to ask me to get it. Like if I have if it is my pen, my notebook on the table, and you want it, then you have to ask me. You can't ask my neighbor and say, okay, can I take that pen and notebook and just take it? It belongs to me, so you have to ask me for it, right? And again, there's no example for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but like we say these examples just for our own understanding. So when something belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it. So the guidance, the way of living, the main source of it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we ask Him, He will give it to us. So we empty our heart and we ask Him directly. And we not put any wasila in between, not put like, okay, I'll ask this person and this person asks. And if you look at any deviations that have happened in religion before, in Aqidah, in Tawheed, that have happened in any religion before, it's always putting some intermediary between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, we learn from our scholars. Yes, we learn from our teachers. But when we are worshipping, when we are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we are making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's no intermediary. There's no one. No matter how much we love our teacher, our scholar, even our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, no matter how much we don't ask the Prophet says, like we don't have to have the Prophet sallam in between to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let alone anybody else. If it's not even Prophet sallam, then what is small people like me and you, right? So when we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and whether it is for us or our children, we ask directly. And we teach that to our children as well. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly. You have a direct relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala owns guidance. And whatever kind of guidance you need, just empty your heart and ask Him, and He will give to you because He owns it. He owns it, right? And don't seek indirect knowledge. Otherwise you will be you will otherwise there's a danger of you going astray. Like something direct is always beautiful. Like for example, today, let's say very simple example of milk. Like let's say we go to the supermarket and we buy milk and everything. But as opposed to that, if we are able to get a milk directly from a farm, a milk that has just been milked from a cow, which used to happen in olden times, like until like 30 years ago or something, it was very common in most places to go directly to the source, the cow or the buffalo or it is milked, and then you just get the pure milk right away. And that is a different, that has different qualities. All the nutrients are intact. Like we know now that pasteurization actually kills a lot of nutrients in the milk. There's a lot of benefits in the milk that are actually killed during this process of trying to preserve it more and everything. But then when we had things fresh, when we had things direct from the source, they're beautiful. So again, we learn about the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but the very beautiful thing is learn from the source. Yes, people have told us things about Islam says this, Islam says that, but a lot of it is sometimes hearsay. Like somebody said this, then I heard this person say this, I heard that person say this. And is that the truth? Right? So we need to go to the source. And what are and that's why, first of all, when we see guidance, we are told a believer is said to say 17 times at least in a day. We go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we ask Him to guide me. We always say, Ihdina siratal mustaqim. We ask Allah directly right? That Ya Allah, give me the hidayah through which I can lead my life in whichever way pleases you most. I don't know, and you know, because I don't own guidance. Whatever guidance I have, Allah has given me. And I need more and more every single day, not even every single day. I need multiple times a day. Every single day, at least 17 times during the day, I need to ask my Rabb. And then beyond that as well. But this is the bare minimum that we, every single one of us, 17 times in a day, I need to ask my Rabb for guidance. How much I need guidance, that I need it. And Allah Ta'ala knows, He created us, He knows we need it. So He told us to ask. This is the bare minimum. And then we ask again and again. So every time in every salah, we have to read Fatiha. A rakat of the salah in which Fatiha is not recited is not complete, right? The Fatiha is essential. In some rakat, we don't read additional Quran, some we do, depending on whether it's a farz or what kind of rakat we are reading. But we definitely read Fatiha in everyone. In every time in Fatiha, we have Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in, ihdina siratal mustaqim. That, Ya Allah, guide me to the straight path, right? So uh, only those people uh, are successful who take their need to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And what is hidayah? We've learned that before, but hidayah comes from hadiah, which is a gift, a beautiful gift, right? And a gift is not something that I'm entitled to. A gift is something that the other one gives. So I'm not entitled to receive it, but it is the beauty, the grace, the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives it to me, right? And also another thing, other things about guidance is that supposing I'm going to a new place, I've never been to this place before, then to have a guide with me, it means a guide will tell me how to navigate this place, where to go, what to do here, what not to do here. Like for example, some of us who are going for Umrah for the first time or the Hajj for the first time, we take guidance from different people who've been there before, who know about it. Like, okay, what do I do? What kind of clothes do I wear? Where do I go first? And what do I do? What are the duas I make at this time? Where do I have to take? Where do I have to make my intention? Where do I have to put my ihram on? And when do I take the ihram off? And what are the things like the first time we need to know, right? So when we are going to a new place, and in this life, every day we have new experiences. Every day we would have choices to make, like from right from the get-go. As soon as we open our eyes, like literally, like, okay, do I wake my children first, or do I freshen up myself first and get a bit fresh myself first? Okay, what do I have for breakfast? Do you have tea or coffee, or nothing of that? Do you have milk, or do I not have time for any breakfast at all, or do I have a toast? Do you have some other thing, like what am I eating for breakfast? What am I doing? How am I traveling? Where do I go at my work? How do I prioritize? How do I do things? What am I going to wear today? The choices, small choices to big choices every day. We have these multiple choices and experiences and opportunities that come to us, and they'll be different every day, right? So and every day it's something new, and we need new guidance every day. We need Allah Ta'ala to tell us. We need Allah Ta'ala to show us. We need Allah Ta'ala to help us on what to do and how to do it and everything. So we keep asking Al-Hadi, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, for guidance. Ihdina siratal mustaqim, guide us to the straight path, right? And also guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, hidayat. One quality of hidayat doesn't mean just to show the way, but it also means to help someone walk the way. So let's say I'm going somewhere and I stop on the way, and like let's say I'm going to I need to go to the hospital for something. I need to visit somebody at the hospital, and I'm on the way, and I'm like, I don't know the way, and my phone's not working for some reason. The GPS is not loading, or the app is not working or something, and I can't find the way, and I didn't check on at home because I just relied on my app to go and everything. So now I stop and I ask somebody on the way. Now, one thing is the person who I stopped, I just knew this person. I saw a person that I know, and I'm like, oh, I saw this friend of mine, and like, I'll ask this friend. So I asked this friend, okay, do you know what the way to go to this hospital? And the person says, yeah, sure, you go straight, and then after two red lights, you take a left, and then you'll come to a roundabout, and then you take the third exit, and you go here and there. They tell us the way and everything, and that is good. Alhamdulillah, we'll reach. But then there's another friend who's like a real good friend, like who really cares about us so much and everything. They're like, you know what? Just wait. I'll sit with you and I'll actually take you there. Don't worry about it. I have some time. I can sit with you, and like I don't mind that. Don't worry about it. I'll sit with you and I'll help you reach there, right? So I'll take you to the hospital. Actually, I have to go somewhere from there, and I'll go from there. Don't worry about it. Or even if they don't have to go, they say that they come with you and they say, you know what, don't worry about it. I'll come back later. I have some time. I'll come with you. So they actually sit with you and they take you there and they make sure you reach there and then that you reach your final destination. So that is another kind of guidance, and hidayat is that kind of guidance. So hidayat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not just showing us the way, but also making us walk that path, like not just showing us the path, but making us walk that path and reach our destination, right? So the hidayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like that. And the words of the Rasul of Allah and the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's like the same thing, right? So for example, if I transcribe something word by word, let's say I'm listening to an audio by a professor and I transcribe it word by word and I write it. Now the knowledge is the same, but the way it is expressed is a bit different because like the experience is different of reading it versus listening to the audio of it. It's a different experience, like of listening to an audio by that author and of reading that book, because in audio you'll also have these like voice modulations, and sometimes the voice goes, sometimes the person speaks a bit faster, sometimes they go a bit slower when they have to emphasize something a bit more, something they would, sometimes they would like be a bit louder in something, sometimes they would be a bit quieter when they want you to pay more attention. Like there are different qualities when a person is speaking. There's which cannot be captured in a book. Also in a book there is more like, as opposed to a book, like a person can go slower at their own pace, the person who's reading, but while a person's listening to an audio, it is like you have to follow the pace of the audio, the person who's speaking, right? So it's the same knowledge, but it has different qualities, a different way of expression, like that. So if we look at the Quran and the Hadith, the Quran is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the tafsir of the Quran, by the Prophet ﷺ, and the Hadith, they are the explanation of the Quran. The character of the Prophet ﷺ is the Quran itself. The Aisha radiallahu anha, she said that she was asked about the character of the what was the Prophet ﷺ like, and she said he was like the Quran. Like he was like the walking, talking Quran. His character was like the Quran. May Allah Ta'ala also make us follow the same path, that we follow the Quran to develop our personalities and our characters. Allahumma ameen. So for us, the thing of whatever the Prophet of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, as long as we affirm it, as long as we confirm it's authentic, and we try our best to understand the context and how it is said and everything, and the Quran, both of us are the same thing. Like the hold the same amount of value for us, in the sense, like obviously Quran is the word of Allah, that is different in that sense, but everything that from which we know that the source is the Quran or the Hadith, and we truly get it, then we humble ourselves before it. We don't say, instead of that, like or in its competition, we don't say anything or do anything to say against what is that you know what, like I don't understand this and this doesn't. It is one thing to say I don't understand this and I want to understand this so that I can follow it better. I don't this does not, like I'm not able to understand this thing, like I need to learn it more, I need to do something more. And another thing is, you know what, this doesn't make sense to me, so you know what, like yeah, you might say this is a hadith or something, but astaghfirullah, that like I think it was not relevant anymore. I think it was relevant at that time, but it doesn't make sense anymore. Astaghfirullah. Like Allah is the owner of time. Allah is the same Allah who was at the time of Musa alayhi salam and Ibrahim alayhi salam and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and today, and He will be the same Allah until the day of judgment. Allah Ta'ala revealed the Quran and He knows exactly what is important, and you know, like what is valid and what can be done, what is can be followed. And if He has given us something, that means it can be followed. There's another thing to say that I am weak and I'm struggling with it, and that's okay. That each one of us struggles. Every one of us is imperfect. The perfection belongs only to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhana is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanallah is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhan is not for anybody else. Nobody else. Every single human being has shortcomings, whether we know it or whether we don't. Right. So we don't say anything against the hadith, or whenever the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ comes or anything, we humble ourselves before it. And also, the people of the book of that time, the Jews and the Christians of that time, they said that how is it possible that the prophethood can go to somebody other than Bani Israel? So we had this prophethood, we had this like whole pomp and show and all this power. And now if somebody from let's say Bani Ismail says that they have received this prophethood or something, then don't accept it. Because if you accept it, then our own status and blessings would be like you're negating our own special status and blessings, because like how can you give it to somebody else, right? So and that is also a problem of many people, because they cannot accept somebody else getting the kind of blessings that they have got before, right? So for example, if you look at a lot of family situations, some women ran their households however they wanted, and they had like a full authority, and they did everything. And now they become like they were the wives, they became mothers, they were running everything how they wanted. And now let's say they have a daughter-in-law, like the son got married and everything. Now a daughter-in-law has come to the house, right? And she wants to do things in a certain way, and the mother-in-law says, you know what, how can she, like, I have the authority here, how come like now she's going to tell me what to do, she's going to tell me what to do regarding my son or my household or anything, like I have the authority here, right? Or it could be in the same terms of business. Let's say somebody's running a business in a certain way, and somebody else comes and joins their practice and tells them, you know what, we shouldn't really be doing this way, and how about we do it this way, because maybe this is better, maybe this is more fair to the people, or maybe this has a better practice or something more ethical or this and that. And that person who's been running the business is like, okay, now you are going to tell me? Really? I've been running it for this while. I've had this authority. Now you like just joined like 2 days before, just 4 days ago you joined this thing, and like, do you even know what, like, you are going to tell me about this, about how you're going to? So it's like a lot of people have this problem that it's like whatever they are doing, nobody else can do it as well as they are doing. Nobody else can do it, period, for some people, and nobody for other people, nobody else can do it as well as they have been doing, right? And like it's like also some people think that some people who've invested a lot of years into something and they've gained a lot of respect from people, they gain a lot of authority in that particular field, right? And they get a lot of honor, they get used to that kind of honor and everything. And then they start to think like, okay, now that I'm there, why somebody else need it, right? And so that attitude is being highlighted, that when we are here, when we Bani Israel, there's still plenty of Bani Israel around and everything. So what is the need of giving the prophethood to somebody from Bani Ismail when there is Baitul Maqdis already there? Then what is the need for Kaaba? Like, so their thinking is like, what is the need for this? Really? Like, we are here. Like, I mean, we are it. That's it. We've always been chosen. The prophethood has always been in Bani Israel, and that's what it is. Like other peasants, other these lowly people, they just got to accept it. And how they can get a profit, like so. Um, and so anybody who starts to think like that, and may Allah Ta'ala protect us from that. Anybody who starts to think like they have some authority over the religion, then the response to them is innal huda hudallahi, that the guidance is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And they say, the Jewish scholars are saying that these Muslims, if you do that, if you go and if you agree with whatever uh, is given to any one of them, um, then they might argue with you, or they might argue with you near your Lord and everything, right? So what was happening there was the Jewish people before the coming of Islam, they were friends with some of the people of Medina. And now those people have become Ansar, they have become Muslims, and they have become Muslims and they are interacting with the Prophet ﷺ. But these friendships of the common people between the Muslims and the common, not the scholarship, but the common Jews is still there. Their friendships are still intact. They're still friends from before. So they're really good friends before. They've spent all their lives together. They've grown up together. And now some people have become Muslims. So now, but they're still hanging out together. They're still talking to each other. It's not like you just cut off with everybody just because you've become a Muslim. So now when these Muslims used to sit with their Jewish friends and they would tell their Jewish friends what we learned from the Prophet, we learned this from the Prophet ﷺ, we learned this today and we learned that today. Now the simple common Jewish people would tell them, you know what? This is something I think is written in our books too, because like I heard my rabbi say something like this before, like 2 years ago as well. that this is very similar and everything. And when they would say things like that, Muslims would come to know that these people actually know that the Prophet is true and Islam is true. And then they were like confused that if these people know that this Prophet is true, that this religion is true, then why are they not accepting it? Right? And so, to these common day to day Jewish people, their elders, their rabbis would say, you know what? You have to stop doing this. If you keep telling these Muslims and you keep telling them things like, and they understand like that we know that this prophet is true and everything, and then we still not accepting him, then they will have a case against you and us on the day of judgment in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And what will their fight be? That these people understood, and still they're not accepting Islam, right? So so don't do this. Uh, don't say this in front of people and everything, and don't accept this, right? So and another thing is the another opinion here is the common people who are being coached by their leaders to not accept this. Those people will fight against their own leaders on the day of judgment, saying that you know because Torah, what was happening was the Torah was not in the hands of common people, as opposed to the Quran, which is in the hands of common people. From the very beginning, the Quran is in the hands of common day to day people. The religious books of before, people monopolized it. People of religion monopolized it. And that happened with every other religion, whether it's the Bible, whether it's the Torah, whether it's the Bhagavad Gita, whether it's the any other religion of the world. Religious authorities monopolized it, and when other people didn't have access to it, they could make changes to it, they could make things to it, depending on, like, maybe one generation was really good but the next generation is corrupt, and they grew up seeing that we have full authority over it. Nobody even knows it's so easy to change. But when something is in the hands of people, everybody has a copy, everybody knows something, you can't change anything. How will you change anything, right? So these common Jews, one interpretation also is that these common Jews will fight their religious leaders on the day of judgment, that you misled us knowingly. We trusted you. We trusted you that you will take us to the right thing, and you told us not to follow these Muslims. And we trusted that you are the people of God, you're the people of religion, you're the people of knowledge, that you would not, and you are our own people, that you would not mislead us, and still you misled us, right? And so if you look at it, the kind of training that these rabbis were giving to their people were there are three aspects they were saying. That one thing is, you're going there, but only listen to whatever thing matches your own stance. Don't learn anything new from them. If they're saying anything, whatever you already believe in, or whatever you already think, or whatever you already know from us, then just accept that, right? And nobody else. Why? Because they thought that they are the only ones who are right, right? And those who are inferior to you, why would you listen to them? Like, we know more, right? Second thing, what they're saying is that have full conviction that whatever you have got, the blessings that you have got, the status that you have got, nobody else can get this status. So this status, this thing is reserved for Bani Israel. So don't think somebody else could actually even get it, because it's not meant for them. It's meant for us, right? And the third thing what they're saying is, don't tell what you have to them, otherwise they will have a case against you on the day of judgment, right? So why were they being sent? We already learned in the previous ayah that you have to accept their thing and then reject it, and to that was the purpose of sending. But then they're giving these disclaimers, these three disclaimers to their people, that first, don't listen to them, only accept what matches with your thing, have full conviction that you are the only chosen ones, nobody else can be chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then don't tell them your own thing so that they have a case against you. And the purpose of why are they doing all this coaching, and why are they doing all this propaganda, and why are they so disturbed by it as well? So the root cause of all of it is because they're jealous of supremacy in religious argument. How are these people getting all these religious arguments that they're making? Why are these people getting a scripture? Why is prophethood coming to their people? So there's a lot of jealousy here, right? And these rabbis are talking amongst themselves, because that do not accept what this prophet is saying, because if you accept what he says, then there's only two ways then after that, if you accept what he says, because either you'll have to accept his prophethood, and if you accept his prophethood, that means that you have yourself given up the distinction that Bani Israel are the only race entitled to have prophets. Then you are you are giving up the claim that you are a better race than everybody else, right? So you can't claim that anymore because you have that distinction. So you cannot accept his prophethood. But if you accept his prophethood, you are acceding to that. But and the other option is if you accept what he says, but you don't accept his prophethood, then on the day of judgment, Muslims will have a chance to argue against you um, because they would say that they understood that he's saying the truth. They accepted what the prophet says, but they didn't accept his prophethood. That does not make any sense. If he's the truth, then why aren't you accepting it, right? Also, their present attitude, if we look at the attitude here, it is not based on love and commitment to the truth. It's not like, but it is the result of their own fear and jealousy that anybody else be granted this position of leadership, which has so far been their exclusive privilege, right? And so, commenting on this Quran, what is the Quran saying? Quran is saying that their religious leadership that they're trying to save, and they're trying to preserve that they have this religious leadership. What Allah Ta'ala is teaching us in this ayah, it is not theirs to begin with. It is not in your power anyway. Yes, Allah Ta'ala gave it to people from Bani Israel, but Allah chose that to give. You didn't choose it. You could never have chosen it. Nobody can keep worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and raise themselves to the level of prophethood. Allah chooses whom He wants. Nobody can choose themselves into a certain category. It is Allah's choice, right? And another interpretation is that they're saying that sarcastically that these Muslims, they will argue against you. Like, can you believe that these people, they will argue? Like, what is their worth? These worthless people, these peasants, these people of no knowledge, these people will argue against. They think they'll argue against you. Like, so it's another interpretation is they're saying it sarcastically, right? And one other interpretation here is that even other than the prophet, what's happening here is the people, the common folk sahabas, the farmers, the trade people and everything, who are the doctors of that time, the people, the tailors, the like the washermen, the different occupations, different people, different day-to-day people. Now these common folk sahabas who have all these different professions and everything, they're not religious scholars. But what's happening is, or either they're coming from shirk and or they were common day-to-day Jews, and now they were day-to-day people. They were either followers of some other rabbis or other groups of people, or they were mushrikeen. They used to be idol worshippers. Now they become Muslims. And what happens is, now that they have become Muslims, they're sitting with the Prophet ﷺ, they're learning the Quran. They're learning the Quran, even if it's little by little. They're learning the Quran. And what's happening is they're becoming empowered through the Quran. Quran empowered them, and Quran will empower us as well. They're being empowered through the Quran, so much so that these people who were not the people of the book, they were not the people of the religion, they were ummiyeen. They were the people who couldn't even read or write. These people are sitting and learning from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they're standing up and they're able to argue against a rabbi. They have strong religious arguments. They are talking about Tawheed. They're talking about these principles that earlier people would reserve only for the religious leadership. Like common day-to-day people had no purpose talking about religion. They would be like, okay, who are you to touch the religious book? Or like you just recite it without knowing. Who are you to understand it? Like, so it's like, but now these common day-to-day people are are able to stand up, and that's how Quran is empowering them. And this empowerment of common people is bothering them, right? So what has Quran done? Quran was making this generation so powerful that it took these people who were ummiyeen, who were idol worshippers, who were common day-to-day Jews, who would just follow their rabbis blindly, and they had no way to fight or even know that there is religious corruption going on. They would just follow their people blindly and everything, or they were just idol worshippers, or they were ummiyeen. They didn't know how to read and write. And those same people, the Quran is making them so powerful day by day by day by day that they can challenge the people that call themselves Ahlul Kitab. They're standing up and challenging those people, right? So the Prophet and the Sahabas, The Prophet ﷺ is teaching them, and the Sahabas, by learning from them, they are, um, they what the schemes of these people are is to break this group of people. They want to break and divide this group and put doubts in these people's mind, and put these people who are converting to Islam just or these they have this thing about like they just become, or they just become serious about Islam, like seriously, like Islam is just like a part of your life. It's not like, why are you making it your whole life? Why are you becoming so serious about this religion thing? Like, come on, like have some life. Like, so people, so this they want to shake people away from Islam, the Sahabas away from Islam. But oppose what is happening is the opposite. The prophets and Sallallahu, they're getting together stronger. Through the Prophet Sallallahu, and through the Quran, these Sahabas are becoming empowered and empowered and empowered, right? And the Sahabas are actually, these people are trying to put in doubts and everything, but it's actually happening. What is actually happening in reality is the opposite. The Sahabas were actually not on defense, they were actually on offense. They're reciting the Quran. They can understand Arabic. They're all reciting the Quran. Oh, Bani Israel, remember the blessings of Allah. Oh, the people of book, this, and this ayah comes, then another ayah comes, then another ayah comes, and they're talking things about Bani Israel. They're talking about people of the book. They're reciting the Quran and again and again and again. And this Quran is giving a message that's hitting them. It keeps hitting them. It keeps hitting them. So by reciting the Quran, every Sahabi and by learning the Quran, by reciting the Quran, by sharing the Quran, every Sahabi is becoming an ambassador of Allah's words, right? And their view had so far been that only religious leaders hold on to guidance. And now this is being totally changed by Islam. It's being totally changed, totally. All the all the followers, all the Sahabi, all the people who come to Islam, whether from birth or from getting guidance and converting, or it doesn't matter where you come from. Once you are here, you're here. Doesn't matter whether you became a Muslim 2 minutes ago or whether you have been Muslims for 70 years. You have the same amount of rights as a Muslim. You are the same in terms of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Like in terms of your deen, you are there. All are becoming the ambassadors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and all are carrying the mission of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? So what did this do? This opened up the religion of Allah. This opened up the love and closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This opened up something what they had closed, what they has kept in close circle always. And they were opening it. Islam was coming and opening it to people, right? So in response to their things, they are being told, the Prophet ﷺ is told to say that fadl is in the hands of Allah. Kul innal fadla biyadillah, that the bounty, the great favor, the prophethood, the hidayah, the honor, the precedence in this world, the blessings of the afterlife, all the fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the fadl is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't own it. He owns it, and he can give it to whoever he wills, right? So don't think you own it. You don't decide. You thought of these people as common people, and these are uneducated people, these are poor people, this and this. You cannot stop these people from getting guidance. If or you feel that like you are more powerful, these people don't have power, or these people are not the people of film and everything. No, Allah Ta'ala can give it to whoever he wants. You cannot it is his fadl. You cannot frustrate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You cannot reverse the decision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His commandment will definitely be enforced. If Allah has chosen somebody, you cannot take away that blessing from anybody, right? And we learn that from the hadith as well, that the treasures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are vast. And if all of us, all human beings and all jinn, to the effect of that, if all human beings and all jinns were to get together from the beginning of times to the end of times, and we were all to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything that we can think of, ever, we asked Allah ta'ala for everything that we want, and He would give everyone, every single human being that ever existed or will exist, and every jinn that ever existed or will exist. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala were to give everyone what they wanted, all their wishes. Still, from the kingdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will not take as much as when a needle is dipped into a sea, and what that needle takes and dipped into the sea and taken out, then the amount of water that that needle takes out from the sea, it will not even be that much. We will not even take from the kingdom of Allah that much. That is how vast the treasures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. Like you have not, like Allah ta'ala tells us in the Quran, you have not appreciated Allah how He deserves to be appreciated. You don't understand who Allah is. Understand who Allah is, and then you will truly appreciate like how vast is His bounty. Like don't try to limit His bounty to any particular group or any. He is he has he is the one. He has wus'at, right? Like wallahu wasi'un alim. One of the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-wasi, right? He's vast. His mercy is vast, his knowledge is vast, his power is vast, right? So um, and again, this is enforced more in the next ayah, right? So another thing is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need your permission about where to send prophethood. Astaghfirullah. Allah ta'ala does not need anybody's permission to choose whom to give prophethood to. This also tells us on a side note is sometimes some of us, may Allah Ta'ala protect all of us and our hearts and from all the diseases of heart. But some of us sometimes we look at other what other people have that we don't have, and there is an envy that sparks in our and it's natural sometimes that that envy comes in our heart. Sometimes it's our own nafs, sometimes the shaitan, like, if only I had what this person had, and I don't have that, or like my husband or my children or my household or my job or the amount of money. It could be anything, or the amount of guide, the amount of knowledge, even it could be anything. And today, if we look at it, like the hearts, if we generally look at it, whether it's social media, this and this, we are able to notice the hearts are full of hasad, full of jealousy. Like even a man against a woman, like the whole gender roles. I think is like women are like, what do you think, I cannot do this, and the men would be like, okay, really, like why can't I do this? There's so much like friction everywhere. Like everybody wants to do what the other person's doing, everybody wants to have what the other person has, and everything. And sometimes when we complain about things, a lot of it is stemming from hasad, a lot of it is coming from jealousy or envy. May Allah Ta'ala protect all of us, right? And sometimes we don't even realize that we have hasad. May Allah Ta'ala show us, and may Allah Ta'ala protect us, and may Allah Ta'ala purify us, right? So sometimes if we are feeling, and what is the hint of that? If we are feeling upset or sad about what others have, right? That's a sign that there is some seed of hasad that is starting to pop up. It might be just a waswasa. It might not even be for our own nafs. Maybe shaitan's trying to put into that. But Allah Ta'ala told us through the Prophet ﷺ that hasad, jealousy, burns good deeds like fire burns wood. So we work so hard to do good deeds, so hard to do good deeds to please Allah, so hard. We collect and we collect and we collect. Then we don't put them to fire ourselves. But that's what jealousy does. That was hasad does, right? So how to counteract that? How to if we start feeling that pop up in our heart, and it will pop up. It's not about if it will pop up, when it will pop up. It is going to pop up at some point, for something or the other. But when it pops up, how to defeat it, how to get rid of it is, first thing is just to understand that Allah has chosen to give it to this person. It was not my choice. I don't choose whom to give what. Allah chooses it. And if Allah has chosen it, and if Allah has chosen that person to have this and me to not have that, or me to have something and another person to not have that, it is Allah's choice. And Allah's choice is based on wisdom, and He is vast. He could give anything to anybody. But if He has chosen that this person has this and this person doesn't has this and this person has that, then that choice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is based on His wisdom, and He has given it. When I'm saying Raditu billahi rabba, I'm pleased with my Allah as my Lord. I'm pleased with Allah as my Lord, meaning He is the Lord, He chooses. So I'm pleased with it. I'm pleased that I have got, this is my share and this is somebody else's share. When I look at somebody else's share, I says, Allahumma barik. May Allah Ta'ala bless you in it. May Allah, I don't have what you have. You have it. And I wanted to have it, but you have it. But that's fine because Allah Ta'ala chose you to have it. May Allah Ta'ala bless you more in it. That's the first step. The second step is that if I really want what they have, why not ask Allah for it? Because the same Allah who has given it to that person can also give it to me. He can give it, right? If it is good for me, He will give it to me. And if I ask Him for it, He will never let me go empty-handed. Either He will give that to me or He'll give me something better. I might not know what is something better, but I will know on the day of judgment. Allah Ta'ala will tell me once. Like sometimes I think like every dua that I make, And then when I am in, inshallah, may Allah Ta'ala make us of all of the inhabitants of Jannatul Firdaus. But when we are in Jannah, maybe Allah Ta'ala will tell each one of us of, He will show for every single dua we made, how Allah Ta'ala blessed us for every single dua of ours, right? And Allah could do it. Allah could show it. Definitely, He has that power to show it. And so anytime I make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah, Ya Allah, I want that too. Ya Allah, I wish I had that too. Ya Allah, I wish like my job was like that, or I wish like I had this kind of honor in the society, or I wish I had this kind of money, or I wish my children were like this, or I wish I could. Why not ask Allah? No harm in asking Allah. There is, like Umar radiallahu anhu, who says, I do not worry about the response of my dua from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't worry about that at all. I just worry about my making dua, because once I make dua, then it is in the court of Allah. Then it's like Allah is going to take care of my dua in the way that is the best for me. Then I don't worry about it, because now this is not my worry to make. Now it is in Allah's hands. Now Allah will do whatever is the best. Now Allah will do according to His ilm and His wasat. I don't have to worry about. This is not my job to worry about it anymore. Why burden my shoulder? I have enough on my shoulders already. Why burden my shoulders unnecessarily with more? In fact, what we are doing with every sajda in the salah is we are unburdening our shoulders. We are not meant to carry this much burden. We only carry what we can. So Allah Ta'ala frees us from unnecessary burdens on our backs. And it's not, even if we carry a feather for a very long time, our hand will hurt, right? So why carry anything extra on our shoulders or our backs, right? So anything, once we make a dua, we leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like, yeah, Allah, now this is done. Now it's in your court. Now I don't have to worry about how this is going to happen, what this is going to happen, how the things are going to course go. No, it is Allah's territory now. Now it's not my job to think. It is Allah will take care of it. And have full trust that Allah will take care of it in the best way possible. And even if I don't see it today, I will see it one day, right? Also, what we learn from here is our goal is not to convince somebody or to move them from their belief. Our goal is to save ourselves from their mischief. When we are learning things in the Quran, first of all, our goal is to understand we are not the mischief makers of ourselves. And then if other people are making mischief, our goal is to save ourselves. Yes, we save ourselves. Allah Ta'ala never told us we save ourselves. We don't put ourselves in harm way. So if somebody is scheming against us, somebody is plotting against us, somebody is making rumors about us or talks about us, can we stop them? Can we hold their mouths and stop them from speaking what they're speaking? No, we can't do that, right? All we can do is, and the same was with the Prophet ﷺ. Could the Prophet ﷺ have stopped all this scheming and plotting of these people? No, he couldn't have stopped all these people. And it was not his job to stop these people or even to worry about these people. What he was doing, what was his job? His job was to work with the people who are close to him, work with those people and clarify things to them. And whatever others say, let them say it. Allah is there. Allah will protect you. Allah will take care of you. You take care of your circle and your commitment to the truth, and you keep doing what you're doing. So the Prophet ﷺ kept doing what they're doing, right? So in today's day and age, for example, we don't just leave our children out there. We tell them things. We try to build their morals up, right? Even though we live in a society and with morals at an all-time low, we don't we tell them things like about wastage of things. We talk about these things and we teach them on it so that they can work well with these things, and we keep working on their strengths. We cannot control the environment, but we can work on building them stronger and stronger and stronger, and that, right? Um, Another thing is that um, another interpretation of that the guidance is the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This whole passage is then from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the Jews. Is that your problem that someone else was given what you were given? Or that they will have a valid argument to argue against you on the day of judgment? So just because so many prophets came from your lineage, you just presume that the final prophet will come from your lineage as well? Why is there so much jealousy? And when there is a lot of jealousy, what another thing that jealousy does is it clouds your judgment. You see haq, you see the truth, and then even while seeing the truth, you pretend to be blind and you just ignore it. And that's why a lot of people who recognized the truth and still didn't accept it, still ignored it, acted blind to it, on the day of judgment, they will be raised blind. A'udhu billah. May Allah Ta'ala protect us from it. May Allah Ta'ala not make us of those people. May Allah Ta'ala make us of those people that when we see truth, we accept it. Right? And in the Rabbikum, in front of your Lord, also means that these people thought that the Prophet ﷺ will become weak if his following is gone. Right? All this show that they were doing was in public, and all of this was so that the followers break away from the Prophet ﷺ, and he doesn't have much following, and his following has a break and everything. But Allah Subhanahu wa Taala responds that He does not need to make an argument with you before people, right? The Rabb of the Prophet ﷺ, the Rabb is witnessing every argument, everything that the Prophet ﷺ is doing. Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is witnessing Himself. So you don't need to, oh Prophet, you don't need to go and argue with these people or think too much about it, because like whether you have a million followers, the Prophet ﷺ, whether you have a million followers or you have zero followers, you are successful if you're doing things in this for the sake of Allah. You're spreading the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala witnesses every argument that you made. So Nuh alayhi salam, even after 950 years, he has a handful of followers. But every time he made an argument, every time he shared the message of Allah, Allah Ta'ala was witnessing it. Whether the result came out of it or not is immaterial. It doesn't matter. In the court of Allah, in the sight of Allah, it is not like in this world, we are used to things as like with the result. We are used to assessing things with the result. If I studied so much through for 4 years, but I did not pass my exam, then I'm a failure. But in terms of when we work for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, every single effort that I do for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is recorded. Every time I share his message, it's recorded. It doesn't matter whether it's one person there or two persons there or 10 persons there or a million people there or 2 million people there. It is irrespective of that. It does not make any difference at all. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who's witnessing. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is wasi'un alim, meaning he's neither short-sighted nor is he narrow-minded, nor is his knowledge limited that he can make a wrong decision in the matter of who to grant prophethood to. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not discriminate, or he does not distribute his bounty and grace by your tiny human scales in such a way that there is no room for others after bestowing it on some. You feel that just because like Allah Ta'ala has given his grace on Bani Israel, then he cannot give it to anybody else. No, Allah's every decision is based on his faultless knowledge. He knows those who deserve and those who do not deserve his grace and beauty, grace and bounty, sorry. Right? So another thing is the advent of the Prophet ﷺ is a tremendous blessing. It's an infinite bounty for the whole mankind. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been especially most gracious to Bani Ismail, first of all, by choosing them for this great universal blessing. So for Bani Ismail, what is the thing? That they should appreciate this great favor to them and be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this. And also goes for all of us. We need to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the Quran, for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who embodied the Quran, who showed us what the Quran, who taught us the Quran, right? And also that despite the anger and jealousy of the Israelites, of the Bani Israel, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala conferred his blessing on the unlettered Arabs. He chooses whom he wishes for his mercy, and nobody can interfere with his decision because it is based on his wisdom. Nobody has the right to, and nobody has the power to, right? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that he chooses. He further tells us and makes a strong point that he chooses for his mercy whom he wills. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the owner of all bounty, he's all greatness, right? So none of us, first of all, the thing is, none of us deserves the Quran and guidance. None of us, period. None of us, not a single one of us. It is his favor. There is no entitlement to it. Somebody could study for years, years and upon years, and they might have a lot of knowledge. They might quote things left, right, and center, but still no guidance. It is possible. I might not know it. You might not know it. It might be. It might be that we don't know what's happening in the heart, what's happening in the private lives, right? Also, somebody could be studying for years and everything, and Allah Ta'ala can also take away whenever He wants. So it's also, may Allah Ta'ala never make us of those who leave, like may Allah Ta'ala never leave us even from the blink of an eye or even less than that. Like may Allah Ta'ala always have Quran as the center of our lives, as the spring of our hearts, right? And another thing is that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala chooses, like meaning like first of all, Allah told us that He's wasi. He's like all-encompassing, vast, and His mercy is vast. And then out of His vast mercy, He's telling us that He chooses some specific people too. He chooses the prophets, the Siddiqeen, the Shuhada. It is not a coincidence. Allah chooses every single one of us that Allah chooses. It is not a coincidence. It is not something, it's not something that we deserved. It was a gift from Allah. It was the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but He chose us. He chose every single one of us. And He chose every prophet, every siddiqeen, every shuhada. He chose every person for their life experiences. He chose every person for the time that they should be born in. He chose every person for whatever life experiences we go through, every single thing, right? So first of all, we ask Allah for His rahmah and His fadl, and we don't look at other people. We ask for ourselves. We ask and we ask and we ask and we ask and we ask again, right? And then when Allah Ta'ala chooses somebody specific, sometimes Allah chooses one or two, and then through them Allah Ta'ala spreads His vastness. So like for example, the Prophet ﷺ, Allah chooses one prophet, and through him it's like a seed, right? And through, just like from a seed, Allah SWT chooses a seed, but that seed goes into a tree. That tree bears a lot of fruits. Every fruit is full of the seeds. Those seeds go again and plant more trees. Those trees again go, the same cycle goes on, and it spreads and it spreads and it spreads and it spreads. It was one seed, but there was, Allah SWT spreads life through it, right? So it's like Allah Ta'ala chooses some specific, He chooses the Prophet ﷺ, He chooses some people specifically, and then He chooses them. Why? Because then He chooses, spreads light through it, right? The Quran is a revelation, is the revelation of Allah SWT is a favor to us that has come to heal our hearts. It has come to heal our hearts. Each one of us has something in our hearts that needs to be healed. Some pain that we have, some hardships that we've had, some pride that we might have, some jealousies that we might have. There might be different things that some tightness that we have, but the Quran will come to heal all of it. He is the owner of the big bounty, Allah Ta'ala. And also, not just these, Allah Ta'ala also gives special treatment to those who come to Him for guidance, right? So when we go to Allah Ta'ala for guidance, we ask Him for guidance, He opens other blessings for us too. He told us in Surah Baqarah, for example, that if these people had obeyed the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it would have rained on them and they would have eaten from the earth and the skies, and they would have had so much blessing. And we will all see that in our lives too. As we come to interact more and more with the Quran, our blessings would increase in other areas of our life too. Things would get easier. There would be peace in our hearts despite other things, right? And what are the different kind of fadl that Allah gives? It's hidayah is His fadl. He's wasiun alim. That's a fadl. Rahmah is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has a lot of ilm. People might plan and plot against someone, but whatever they're doing, Allah knows everything. Allah knows every single thing. The treasures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are not limited. Just because one person has it doesn't mean another can't have it, right? And it also creates a picture of that Allah owns all the fadl. It also creates a mental picture that every person in this world has, we are all with our hands tied up. We are all in need. And it is Allah who holds all treasures and can give them to us. Alhamdulillah, Allah holds the treasures. If the treasures were in the hands of any single human being, nobody else would have got it. We are so like, we are so stingy, and we are so like, when we get something, we just want to hold it so tight. We don't want to like share it so much with others. But Allah's treasures, Alhamdulillah, Allah Ta'ala has not, like the oxygen. Alhamdulillah, Allah Ta'ala has kept it with Himself. Otherwise, we would be paying for oxygen. People would like rob us of anything if they had control over oxygen. And we saw what happened when COVID happened, and certain countries, certain places were struggling with oxygen tanks, and how people made money out of other people's lives, and how people were abusing this and that and everything. But Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Allah Ta'ala controls the treasures in His hands, right? So ilm, fadl, wusat, all these treasures are with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, another point here is that from the deen of Allah, only those can benefit who try to develop these qualities in themselves too. So we should try to consciously try to develop wusat-e qalbi, meaning like the vastness of the heart. Try to open up our hearts, make our hearts bigger hearts for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then we'll be able to benefit from Allah's bounties even more, right? We need to have this. Allah is Al-Alim, right? So we need to develop this shock, this longing for ilm. And this thing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ar-Rahim. So we have this, we try to develop this quality of doing raham on other people. What is raham? Loving care and mercy even for those who don't deserve it, right? Like a child in the womb of a mother, the child is kicking the mother, but the mother's body is still nourishing this child, right? And we have this desire, this passion, this longing to call people to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to do these good deeds. And why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling us all these things? Why are we learning all these things from the Quran? To kind of like, okay, go and tell Bani Israel that you're so your history so this and that, and no, 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 no. The purpose is so that we start to value our deen. We start to understand what a precious thing we have with us. And whatever thing is the most precious, when we have certain jewels which are more precious than the others, we don't just keep them lying around in our house like that. We put them in a safe lockers in our banks. The more precious something is, the more we work to protect it, right? So again, our deen, our religion is very precious. The hidayah that Allah has given us is very precious. So we have to work to protect it, right? And don't let any propaganda against Islam or anything take you away from it. Don't come in the don't come into the propagandas of other people, whether they call themselves Muslim or not Muslims, when they're trying to say, when they're trying to deceive you against Islam, when they're trying to create in your minds a mental picture of what Islam is not, then don't fall for it. Go to the source and find out what Islam actually is. Maybe some people have behaved badly in front of you, and they are Muslims and they've portrayed badly. Don't go to the source. Don't come. That's a propaganda as well. That's Shaitan's propaganda as well. When somebody's doing propaganda on the media, that's propaganda as well. So don't, open up your hearts and go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will teach us wasat qalbi. He will open our hearts, right? And also, when we need the ilm from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we want the knowledge from Allah, we'll have to open up our hearts. Why? Because if I want to put a carpet in a room and I have a big carpet, I have a huge carpet. Now, to put that huge carpet, I need a huge room as well. I need a bigger room to put that big carpet, right? I want in my heart to the ilm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to come in my heart. Now, to do that, I will have to make my heart bigger, right? Then I cannot let the ilm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more and more understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not come if I have narrow-mindedness, if my thought is small, if I'm critical all the time, right? Like then I'll be mahroom, I'll lose out on things. Also, things which keep lying in the same place become stagnant. Like a water, if it is kept in a glass, same glass for a long time, it starts to go bad. Similarly, ilm is like when we keep getting ilm from different places, then it has to be like flowing water. We have to give it to others too. We have to share it, right? And that will increase our vastness. Why? Because we have to, again, with ilm, we have to dissolve amal in it, right? So for example, like our stomachs, when we eat something, we have to digest it first. The energy will come out of it. We utilize that energy and then we can eat again, right? So the ilm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and sometimes we get stuck on these plateaus of we are trying to learn more about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and everything, but I'm at the stage, and how do I go ahead? Now, maybe I need to digest more. Maybe I need to learn from what I have done, implement it in my life, share it with others, and then I can take more, right? And also, even when we are cooking, we put some water. When we are cooking a curry or something, we put some water, we cook it a little bit. And then once it's cooked a little bit, then we add some more. Then we cook a little bit more, then we add some more, right? So ilm, when we're trying to learn, again, put little by little by little and open up our hearts more and more and more and more. Like, and we'll see that like some people are okay with just listening to one dars in 1 year. They're happy with it. They don't need any more. Another person wants to learn every day. They want to do things every day, everything. So what we learn also is that ilm that we get, which just stays in terms of books and to debate with others and to talk to others and everything, that starts to get stagnant, right? So, and that's what happened with Ahl al-Kitab. What happened was like they didn't appreciate their Torah like it deserved to be appreciated. They didn't give it to others. They tried to hold on to it. Like, okay, we are the religious thing. We will tell you what to do. We will not share it with, like, not everybody has to have access to it, right? Um, and um, and they just had this notion that just because I have got it, it's mine, and I will share it with whoever I want. But Quran teaches us something totally different. We have to share it, right? When we share the ilm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the wusat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's a different character, a different personality that comes out, right? And Allah Ta'ala wants that personality to come out for all of us, right? So the thing is also for us that to um, to make sure that we are not impacted by all the schemes that are done is like not to put ourselves in our mind in dangerous situations as well. Meaning, like to learn the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, learn the Quran, give it focus, give it its haq, and read it, understand it. Then wherever you learn from after that, like when you learn hadith and when you learn after once you've like have a good understanding of the Quran and hadith, now those people can go and see what other people are doing to attack Islam, and they can argue with them and everything because they already have a strong footing. But somebody who has a shaky foundation, whose pillars are not that strong yet, shouldn't go out and put themselves in danger, right? So uh, another thing is when we just join ourselves with one thing, then we shouldn't go here and like don't be so closed as well, but don't put yourself in dangerous situation. It's a balance that we will learn. Um, Another thing is that ilm is something living, something which is non-living, like a jewelry or something. We can put it in napkins and or something and put it away and it won't go bad. But something living like a flower, we cannot like put it in napkins and put it away. It will go bad in some time. Like so, ilm is something living. And so what we need to do also with something living is just like a fruit, until it is attached to the tree, it will keep ripening nicely. It will be sweet and everything, right? So we want to be those fruits who are fruitful, who are sweet and everything. So we another thing that they say is we should stick to the roots of Islam. We should stick to the tree. We should stick to the jama. Stick to the gathering. Don't try to be a lone wolf, because a lone wolf is easy to hit and target. So we should try to develop, consciously try to develop the company of people who are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah Ta'ala will inshallah give us more and more and more, right? And whoever Allah wants, he can make them, he can choose them and everything. And Allah doesn't want his guidance to be restricted to a few people. He wants his guidance to be spread far and wide, because Allah owns it, not human beings. Allah chooses out of love, care, and mercy. He does not choose out of spite. Meaning that do not think that, why do you think, oh Bani Israel, why do you think that just because Allah Ta'ala has chosen somebody from Bani Ismail that Allah hates Bani Israel? No. Allah Ta'ala loves you just as much. He chose Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam as he himself. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam himself is embodiment of love, care, and mercy. And this wahi is actually rahmah. So Allah chose Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam not just for Bani Ismail. He chose Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam for Bani Ismail and Bani Israel and the whole of mankind. Allah does not, don't think that just because you are accepting him as a prophet, you are becoming any less. No, Allah does not dislike you. Allah does not choose out of spite. You might have seen people act out of spite, but Allah chooses out of love, care, and mercy, right? And even in the middle of all your scheming that you're doing, the doors of Allah's love and mercy are not closed on you. Allah owns the ultimate favor and He can still favor you. You are still breathing. That means that door to come back to Allah Ta'ala is still open for you. Until any one of us is breathing, we have not seen the angel of death, or we have not seen the sun rise from the west. Until any of these two things happen, each one of us, no matter how many sins we might have sins that if we pile them up one over the other, they can, from the earth, they reach the skies. We might have sins which are more than the foam of the sea. We might have so many sins that are uncountable. And other human beings might think that I'm a gone case. But these are human beings. Our matter is not with human beings. Our matter is with Allah. For every single human being, our matter is with Allah. He owns the ultimate favor. He can still favor us. Quran has right over us. We don't have the right over the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has right over us. None of us controls the Quran. None of us can control the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. None of us says the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will go to this person and not to this person. Allah gives his mercy to whoever he wants, and he can choose the worst of sinners and guide them back. Right, so don't feel anybody, for ourselves first of all, or for anybody else, that they are a lost cause. May Allah Ta'ala guide us and keep us guided, and may Allah Ta'ala bring us, may Allah Ta'ala open our hearts so that we truly understand that Allah is Rahman, and the way is He is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. We cannot even imagine His mercy. His mercy is beyond our imagination. His mercy is not like our mercy. His mercy is He has vastness. He's all encompassing. We can't even imagine. May Allah Ta'ala brighten and like widen our own hearts, and may Allah Ta'ala help us to understand His mercy, and that like His mercy is bigger, better than even our expectations, even our tawakkul. Our tawakkul stops at this much, and His mercy is way more than His rahmah is bigger than our tawakkul. His rahmah is much, 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 much bigger than that, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also much, much, much bigger. Allahu Akbar. He is truly Akbar. We cannot understand His vastness. We cannot understand the vastness of His mercy. So whether we are from Bani Israel or Bani Ismail, whether we are Arab or non-Arab, we are from, whether we are born Muslim or we have just come to Islam, whether we have always been practicing or we just started practicing, whether our minds were and hearts were attached to Islam always, or they have just started being attached to Islam. No worries. Allah's doors are open to everybody. May Allah Ta'ala help us understand. May Allah Ta'ala protect us from jealousy. May Allah Ta'ala guide us every step of our life, every blink of our eye. May Allah Ta'ala guide every step we take, every word we speak, every gesture we make, every person we interact with. May Allah Ta'ala take care of us, and may Allah Ta'ala grant us from His bounty. May Allah Ta'ala keep us in His rahmah. Just like Allah Ta'ala united us as sisters in Islam in this world, may Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala reunite us as sisters in Islam on the day of judgment under the shade of His throne, when there will be no shade except His. And then may Allah Ta'ala reunite us as sisters in Islam in Jannatul Firdaus. Any goodness that comes from this talk is from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala alone, because He is the owner of all goodness. And any shortcomings are mine, because I am human being open to mistakes. May Allah Ta'ala still accept from all of us, from myself and from anybody who listens to it today or any other time. May Allah Ta'ala still accept from us. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم آمين يا أرحم الراحمين سبحانك اللهم أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.